Hello and welcome to the Badger Politic. I am Scott Stearns.
Good evening. My name is Paul Sickle.
How's it going, Paul?
Well, it's a good evening.
Yeah,
finally.
Yeah, there was an election day in America today, wasn't there?
It's as if the clouds have finally broken after a year of turmoil, and nothing is really solved. We just have finally seen the point of recovery, of where recovery can begin.
Signs of hope.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you've not been following too closely, today is the general election in two big states on the East Coast for governor, New Jersey and Virginia. And yes, both of them elected Democrats tonight.
Yes. So we had in New Jersey, we had Phil Murphy. This was a vacant seat because Chris Christie was not running again. So we had Phil Murphy, Democrat, beat Kim Guadagno. That was pretty decisive. The final results of that, I think, were something around, was it 55?
55-42, I think.
Okay.
So 56-42.
So pretty decisive
turnout in that one.
Yeah, I don't know if that one was as contentious as the other one, which was in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And so that one is obviously the one that everybody was paying attention tonight.
Right. It was seen as a bellwether, and a lot of folks probably thought, myself included, that the Democrat Ralph Northam wasn't doing himself a whole lot of favors by wavering on the sanctuary city issue, which is really important for a lot of people's lives who are, at stake with the immigration issues. And, he was getting so much critique, so many critiques from the right, based on race issues, trying to fearmonger to try to get, whites to vote against him. Trump was tweeting constantly that he was, going to cause crime to run rampant.
Right.
But nonetheless, Northam won.
He pulled it out. He beat Ed Gillespie, who was former head of the RNC during the Bush era.
Mm-hmm.
Trump immediately went on Twitter, of course, and said, well, if Gillespie had embraced me, he would have done better, which, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, everybody knew where Trump stood on this race, and if he would have, seriously, if he would have come in person and done more appearances, Gillespie's numbers would have been better. I don't see that. And he was doing robocalls for him. He was out front. I believe Steve Bannon a few days ago said that because Gillespie had tied himself to Trump, that would be the reason why Gillespie would seal the deal.
Right.
So this is just kind of revisionism in real time of what we're seeing here, and a lot of saving of face. So
yeah, that obviously didn't happen.
Yeah.
And it was a resounding victory.
Yeah,
honestly,
it was 9 points, 9-point victory.
So that's 240,000 votes.
Yeah.
That Northam won by. And it's more doubly
54 to 45 is what
right.
we're seeing right now. It's 99% reporting.
It's doubly impressive to me because the polling was closer. The candidate wasn't particularly, articulate. Honestly, Northam, I watched him speak. He wasn't quite inspirational or anything like that. And I feel like if he can win big, then I think that tells you that there really is an anti-Trump wave.
Well,
developing.
The last week, obviously, there was a lot of there was kind of a lot of infighting on the Democratic side because he wasn't he was kind of unclear about his position on immigration. He came out and said he didn't support sanctuary cities, and then there was a third-party campaign ad, I believe, that was running in Virginia that featured a truck with a Gillespie sticker, kind of going after immigrants, and it was. I didn't actually see it.
Young minority children.
Yeah.
And, actually, I saw it. It was. I liked it. Yeah. I thought it made the point.
Yeah.
A great meme I saw today was a picture of the guys holding the tiki torches, all the KKK members, in Charlottesville, holding the tiki torches, and it said under them, "These guys voted today. Have you voted yet?"
Well, that's one way to drive turnout.
Right. I think it made the point that, when you're wondering what's the difference between candidates, I think it made the point that, elections really do matter.
Oh, of course. But, I think it was surprising to a lot of people on all sides.
Mm-hmm.
So
all sides, both sides, right?
Right.
Great people on both sides, right?
It was. I mean, it was definitely more of a resounding victory than I think people were anticipating. I think there was a lot of speculation this would be a late night, that it would be a nail biter, that the Democrat would be favored in, but maybe it would be like a 51-49 victory, or 50.5 to 49.5 or something. And that's not how it turned out. This thing, closed, the polls closed at 7:00, and it was done within an hour. That they announced
7:00 Eastern.
6:00
here.
So,
by 7 p.m. here, they said that
it was
Northam had won.
Yep.
Or shortly after.
So,
I think that it is a nail biter though, late in the evening for the Virginia House of Delegates.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. That's their state assembly, basically. They
were down, coming into today,
34 to 66.
Yep. And so they needed to pick up 17 to take control of the House of Delegates. And, as of what we're seeing right now, that it looks like the
Democrats have 48.
They've gained, it looks like they're going to gain 14. There's decisions in 11 of those that they're favored in 3 others, and then there's more. There's 4 more, I believe, that are going to be up for a recount because of the margin.
Right.
So those will be decided over the coming days, and that's going to determine who controls the House of Delegates.
What
in
I
Virginia.
saw was that the Democrats had won 48, the Republicans had won 47, and there were 5 that were still too close to call.
Okay.
So basically, the recount was.
Yeah.
They said that the Democrats were actually, I think, favored ahead in 2 of them.
Okay.
And so that would make a 50-50 House of Delegates, which I believe would go to Democratic control.
Yeah.
With the governor, the governor situation. Although that could be, who knows, in the Commonwealth, as we said.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that struck me was just who voted. And I think that one of the big themes that we're hearing is that turnout was high.
Yes.
And this is a nice change. I mean, that the turnout wasn't high, say in Georgia 6 or even last year's presidential election, but it was higher than, it was much higher than, say, in 2013, when I believe 2,300,000 voted. This year, another 300,000 voted. The Republicans actually met their benchmarks, and they got more votes this year than the Democratic candidate Terry McAuliffe, the current governor, received in the last election. They exceeded their opponent's previous win number, but the Democrats turned out 300,000 more votes, and just swamped them.
What was the overall turnout? Are we thinking about 45%?
It was about 45%.
So not bad. I mean, in an off-year election.
Right. No, I don't think so.
That's pretty decent,
but
I would say.
The big thing is that people showed up. And when you look at the exit polls, you can see who showed up.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at a Monmouth poll that was released yesterday. It had a 2-point advantage to Northam over Gillespie. But one of the things when you break it down by different groups.
Yeah, by party, for instance.
It actually had the exact same in the breakdowns of what the exit polls showed.
Yeah.
So this poll was correct. The only thing the poll missed was that the Democrats turned out in greater numbers.
Yeah, well, it's in the exit poll shows that it was the breakdown was 41% Democrats, Republicans was 30%, and then 28% independents.
Right, and this expected slightly more Democrats and Republicans and more independents than anyone. is what basically roughly an equal breakdown, and it had Democrats breaking almost entirely to Northam, and Republicans breaking almost entirely to Gillespie, which is what happened, right?
Right. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. It was 97% to 3 for Northam amongst Democrats, 95% to 4 amongst Republicans for Gillespie. And then Independents actually did break for Gillespie, 50% to 47%.
And this poll showed that Independents were breaking Gillespie 45 to 40. So people say Independents, the movement of independence is what swings things. Well, this poll showed that Gillespie was going to win by 5 points among independents.
Yeah.
How much did he actually win by?
50 to 47, 3% other. So I mean,
slight movement. But the big movement, basically the same thing. The big thing is that there obviously had to be more Democrats voting.
Yeah. That's what it appears to be.
Polled. And I think and you start looking at, break it down to race, I think, if you can get to race. The pre-election poll was almost right on in terms of how the vote broke down among race. What it missed was how many non-whites would actually vote.
The exit polls, again, this is according to CNN, 67% of the turnout was white, 33% non-white. Mm-hmm. And amongst those, whites, 57% for Gillespie against 42. Amongst non-whites, 80% for Northam, 19% for Gillespie.
So you said it was 57-42, so Gillespie won whites by 15 percentage points, right?
Correct.
In this poll, it had Gillespie winning whites by 14 percentage points.
So
almost exactly
good margin
right.
of error. Yeah.
In fact, Gillespie actually did better in reality than this poll showed among white voters.
Yeah, slightly.
Among non-white voters, it was this poll had 74 to 14, so a 59-point lead.
So
it was 80-20, a 60-point
80
lead.
to 19. So that's definitely. That speaks to turnout amongst non-white voters for Northam.
Basically, the breakdown was the same. It's just that way more non-white voters showed up.
Right.
In fact, that's pretty much what won it.
It definitely was a key component
because this poll had a tied race, or a 2-point lead for Northam.
Yeah, and that's what we saw in the days leading up. I mean, all the speculation was that this thing was closing, Gillespie was sealing the deal. And the momentum was all on his side, but when the results came in today, that whole story did not pan out.
I'm curious about college. Do you have education?
Yes. So education, high school or less. So the turnout amongst the different education levels, 12% of the turnout was people with a high school diploma or less. 29% had some college. 33% were college graduates, and 25% were postgraduates. So amongst those, people with a high school diploma or less broke 58% to 41 for Gillespie. People with some college, 50 to 48. So pretty even there. If you were a college graduate, you went for Northam. That's 56% to 43. And postgraduate, 65% to 35.
Did they just have the binary college? Yes, no? Yeah, that's the one I have to compare it to. Mm-hmm. I don't have the
you don't have
4 choices. I got the 2.
Are you a college graduate? Yes, 58%. No, 42%.
How many non-college people voted for Gillespie?
52% to 46.
And this said 54 to 40.
So
among non-college.
So a few percentage points. Again, that's probably within the margin of error. But
non-college wound up doing a little bit better for Northam, but he still lost it. And then how about college? What did you have?
60% of people with the college that were college graduates went for Northam to 39% for Gillespie.
And this was projecting as 53 with the college.
So that was definitely 39%. A change. So college grads came out to vote.
They came out to vote, but they had 53% voting for Northam, 39% for Gillespie. among college grads.
So this is 60%.
60 to 39.
Yeah.
So actually, Gillespie overperformed underperformed.
Yes.
Northam actually did
Exceeded expectations.
actually exceeded even with both college grads and non-college grads. So that's interesting. So
that's college grads. I mean, it's people that attended college too. Gillespie still won them. So because it says, did you attend college? Yes or no? 88%.
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at though is that Gillespie was supposed to win non-college people by 14 points, but he only won by 6.
Correct.
And he was supposed to, and Northam was supposed to win college grads by 14 points.
Yeah.
But he did win them by what, 20?
21.
21. So basically, the overperformance was consistent across education.
Seems to be.
For Gillespie compared to this poll.
Yeah.
So education wasn't what the poll missed then. What the poll was missing, I mean, it was universally missed.
It was race.
It was on race.
Yeah.
It was where, like,
Absolutely.
the breakdown of, I mean, I guess it missed the college, but proportionally. Whereas race is one area and Democrats, which I think kind of, I don't know, run together. Heteroskedasticity or something like that is what describes the phenomenon.
I mean, and it sounds like the reason why we knew the result was going to be Northam early on is just how he was performing throughout the state, because generally the Northern Virginia area comes in later, historically anyway, and that's the DC suburbs essentially, your Arlington, Fairfax County, and that. And that it was coming in, but I think the way the margin, in the Richmond area and other areas, I think that Gillespie just wasn't performing to the extent that he needed to run up the score to counteract the effect upstate.
That said, I mean, it wasn't just Virginia, obviously, and it wasn't just a governor's race. You've got the House of Delegates where there's at least a 14-seat gain out of a 100-seat body. That gives us hope in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got 35 Democrats in the state assembly. If we could get 14, we'd be at 49.
Oh, yeah.
Out of 99.
Well, and then one really great story coming out of the House of Delegates races in Virginia is the fact that Danica Rome, who's a Democrat, former journalist, defeated the incumbent Republican candidate, Delegate Bob Marshall, who has been one of the most outspoken members of the legislature down there about LGBTQ rights. And Danica Rome is the first openly transgender candidate elected official in Virginia, and I believe nationally.
Openly elected to a state legislature.
Yeah.
Right?
And she's 33 years old. Her opponent, Bob Marshall, was he referred to himself once as the state's chief homophobe. He introduced a bathroom bill earlier this year that died in committee.
He refused to call Danica she.
Yep.
She
and referred to her as male and refused to debate her.
In Washington State now, the control of government is completely in the hands of Democrats.
Yeah.
We won a special election for the state senate. So that's a huge victory. Then it's the trifecta states. In Virginia had Gillespie won, the Republicans would have had complete control of the government, just like they do in Wisconsin. Instead, now, it actually looks like the Democrats may be approaching the trifecta in Virginia.
Well,
they get the House of Delegates.
They held on to the Attorney General and the Lieutenant Governor.
So the Democrats now have complete control in 8 states. The Republicans have it in 26. Now, I believe they are down to... I don't know if they lost control in any of their 26. So that, I mean, it shows how much the party under Obama really shrunk, unfortunately, below the presidential level.
Right.
It needs to. There was a comeback that people forget about at the state level in 2012, and we saw that even here in Wisconsin.
Right.
We need to be able to recapture some of that. If there's any background noise, there's a dog here eating. Trying to eat French fries, so we apologize. It's super. The dog wants to be supersized.
Empty French fry container.
Yeah,
but
she's
still,
only
it's
12 pounds, so
delicious.
she wants to be supersized. Yeah. But anyway, I mean, really good news, all in all. New Jersey governor, no surprise, the Democrat holds on, like we said.
Yeah.
So I will note, though, that it was a little disappointing. They were talking about getting a 20-point victory, and it was only a 15-point victory. And what do you have in New Jersey? Low turnout.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Well, I was just going to say, we should also mention that Mayor de Blasio sailed the re-election in New York City, 66% he won by, so he'll be there for one more term. I guess
again, really low turnout in New York City.
Yeah, I don't know that wasn't a very competitive election for me.
They're going to be at 1.3 million votes out of in a city of 8 million people.
Right. I mean, basically, the number of voters equals basically the Milwaukee metro area.
Right. 1.3 million people voters. I mean, granted, people are they're children, they're non-citizens, but it's safe to say that close to 6 million of the people of the city of New York can vote. Yeah. And only 1.3 million did. Mm-hmm. So they had 20% turnout.
So looking at the numbers in Virginia in particular, and I guess, what we're seeing in the legislature there and also in New Jersey, Washington, what lessons can we take from this and how can we apply them to places like Wisconsin to see how we can better achieve victory?
I think turnout matters. I think especially among Democrats and, minority voters and younger voters, just like we've talked about the rising American electorate. Yeah. I think that's the first thing that I take from it. Yeah.
In Virginia, I believe that's another state where the legislature has been gerrymandered.
Right, and that's why. So I think the other lesson is that you shouldn't lose hope just because of the gerrymandering. Sure. The Democrats are very likely to take over the House of Delegates, despite the incredible gerrymander. Republicans had unified control when they last did the thing. It's a total gerrymander, and they're still likely to lose control. Yeah. And this is with a 9-point statewide victory. So it's not like it's insurmountable. Right. I mean, 9 points is a really nice victory, but it's not a huge blowout.
But it's enough where there are coattails down
it's
ticket.
Enough where there are coattails,
yep.
Right.
That's what it takes.
And I also think that part of that's because all the elections are nationalized. So there's an anti-Trump backlash that's very strong, which we saw. Apparently there were some good house races in Georgia, state house races that went the Democrats' way that had been Trump voting districts, but narrow. Mm-hmm. They were swing districts. So even in so that makes me feel like this is the makings of a pretty decent wave. Whether it can overcome all the gerrymandering, I'm not sure, and give us majorities all over the place, but I certainly think it can overcome some of it and put the Democrats in a position to at least pick up seats in a state like Wisconsin.
So, I guess the other thing I would bring up just to kind of to bring it home is, so we had the mass shooting in Texas over the weekend, yet another. It was just a couple podcasts ago we were talking about Vegas, mm-hmm. and now, the situation in Texas and the Baptist church down there. And looking at the race in Virginia, which is, there are significant portions of that state that are pretty deep red. And the exit polling that I saw tonight asking, people, amongst people where gun rights were an important issue. Mm-hmm. Or like a higher priority issue for them in terms of their voting behavior. It broke even 49% to 49%.
So it wasn't a killer.
It wasn't a killer issue, and Northam was one who didn't shy away from it. He didn't. He
put out pretty strongly pro gun.
He didn't have campaign commercials of him with a rifle, shooting Obamacare with
right,
stuff like that. He actually came out. He's been historically opposed to assault weapons and things along those lines, and
he had the guts to say it.
Yeah.
Now the cynic would say, with all of this, with Virginia and obviously New Jersey, but certainly Virginia is becoming a blue state. Mm-hmm. It's trended blue.
Yep.
How can we expect this to continue to spread it like Wisconsin, where it's been trending red?
Yeah.
I guess the optimist in me would say that the Wisconsin trend is not so much of a trend as a temporary drift. Wisconsin's always been a very close swing state. Obama era was maybe a little bit on the presidential level of a little unusual, actually, because if you actually look at most Wisconsin elections, they came right down to the wire.
Yeah.
Gore and Kerry and all that. So, and it still did come down to the wire, just went the wrong way last time.
Well, it is interesting that so Scott Walker has officially announced that he's running for re-election, and in his announcement, he kind of downplayed the Foxconn deal. He actually didn't.
He won't talk about it.
He didn't make that kind of front and center.
He won't talk about it. Meanwhile, he's being dogged by people chasing him around the state, calling him low-wage Walker. A huge group from Voces de la Frontera greeted him with a massive protest outside of his announcement in Waukesha. And that got covered. And it's nice that the protesters, the anti-Walker people, have been covered. The polling is showing, what looks like it could be a close race. Mm-hmm. And if you can get higher turnout among non-whites, it might even give us a little bit of a boost.
So all in all, a good evening, something to build on, and hopefully a sign of things to come. So
I know I'm a lot less entertaining when we win. But, all right,
all.
Okay, forward.